Welcome to yet another Clips and Dip live edition. This is season 3 episode. I don't know what. We're going to let people filter in here. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for watching us. If you're listening to this later, we appreciate it. We are at Clippers Pod on Twitter, at Clippers Podcast on YouTube. And I mean, the first good news of the Clippers free agency, right, Adam, is that James Harden's coming back on a 2-year, $70 million contract. It's a player option on the second year. I feel if PG walks, the Clippers can get under the first apron with this signing. James Harden, I have no idea why he did this, if I'm being totally honest, but I'm very happy he did. Shout out James Harden. Shout out the Clippers. This is a great piece of business. I don't know. Adam, your thoughts? If you're chatting, let us know your thoughts too.
The only thing I can think is he really values being at home and being a Clipper and appreciates them going out and getting him away from Philadelphia last season. Because this is definitely team friendly. This is definitely cap friendly. This is very unexpected.
We were talking about James Harden on a 3 for 120, 3 for 100, maybe 3 for 150 if things go crazy. But this deal with the new cap stuff, and there are people saying, you know, they didn't really want it or whatever, but 2 years under the first apron possibilities, this is as good as the Clippers were going to get. How much worse would you feel if he signed for 3 for 120, right? That would feel a lot worse now that we've seen two for this. I don't know.
Now that we've seen this, but originally I was expecting that and I would have been fine with it. Now you get 2 years, 70 with a player option on the back end, which means so James Harden age-wise, he's at 34. He's going to turn 35 when the season starts because his birthday is August 26th. So he'll be 35 throughout the entire season. Is he expecting then, if he has a big year, he's going to opt out and get one more 3-year contract or something like that? I'm fine with that too. It's similar to a Blake Snell contract with the Giants, which just happened this past year. It's like it's a prove-it type contract, the 1-and-1, to where you can then go out if you have a huge year and try to get paid even more. If he has a huge year, I don't think anybody's complaining about that as a Clipper fan.
And if he has a huge year, that means that the starting point guard who logged more minutes than any of our other starting point guards who are at his level played really well.
This makes me want to put on my Clippers hat. Hold
on. No, this feels good. This is, I don't know if you're in the chat. Thank you, Anthony Ludi. Team friendly deal, 25 mil under the first apron if Paul George leaves. Like this is also the reality of the new cap. This is what's weird about the new cap is
new cap right here, new Clippers cap.
Is as fans, we need to, and it's an adjustment. It's been an adjustment for me. It's been an adjustment for everyone covering the team. The benefits of the cap flexibility are even more so than what flexibility on the old cap was because of how hard this really shitty cap scenario is. So like Anthony Luti's talking about it, like this plays a part in the Clippers not blinking with PG threatening to go, right? Like
if everybody thinks that this is some shock to the Clippers front office that Paul George was not going to opt in and be a part of a sign and trade and actually end up at this point where he became a free agent, I'm telling you, they've had a plan in place. They knew all the chess pieces that were on the table. They were very aware this could happen.
Right. And
they're not going to be taken by surprise and not have a backup plan. Or maybe they had a read on this that it was likely going to happen. And this is their number one plan because making this deal with James Harden before we even know what's happening with Paul George, that might speak to that.
Yeah. This, I feel good about this. This is the most optimistic I've felt about the Clippers offseason specifically. I mean, the Cam Christie pick is cool if you're a freak who wants to watch 46 pick draft guys develop. But like this is, I don't know why James Harden did this.
Freak.
But big thank you to James Harden. Hey, I mean, if Paul George walks, it's a pain in the ass. But the Clippers would be under the first apron possibly with a bunch more actual flexibility. It's doable. It's not crazy.
Not to mention aside from the cap issues and the flexibility this frees up for them, and the real possibility and likely possibility that they can get under the first apron, which means you get a $13 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception as opposed to the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is only $5 million, which is what they've been having over the years to play with, which means all those restrictions of not being able to trade guys in aggregate, worrying about the 2032 pick being frozen and being at number 30, all that stuff's out the window. And you have a lot more options and possibilities for your future now, even a future where they still don't have a first-round pick till 2030. But aside from all that,
we don't got to bring that up.
I want to bring up how the Lakers and maybe James Harden could have made a run at Lakers and LeBron James could have made a run at James Harden. They could have.
Yeah, that it seemed like they wanted to target him with like an exception, which is not $35 million a year. Chunk Sampson has asked multiple times, what are the possibilities now? The possibilities are we're under that first apron. We get the big exception, like Adam just talked about. You see what Royce O'Neal just went for, things like that. You can get guys in that category who are very helpful off the bench and can really solidify a lineup. So we just get more actual flexibility. I can't believe if you would have told me 24 hours ago, if you would have told me 6 hours ago that the Clippers were going to probably be under the first apron. Yes, losing Paul George for nothing is not ideal, but there are some positives with this new apron stuff. I would have been ecstatic. I would have said, we lost Paul George. We kept James Harden. We're under the first apron now somehow. Hard to be.
These can be.
Yeah, they can be. Excuse me. Yes. Hard to be not at least whelmed with what the Clippers have done so far.
And take into account, this is Chuck saying this, not someone who may be compromised like myself being ecstatic about this. Charles Mockler. Meanwhile, I know where my bread is buttered, and I still try to be
not on this podcast. You can say whatever you want, dude.
As possible.
Clippers don't pay us for this
necessarily
podcast.
The case.
Can I smoke weed on? I don't know if I can.
California, you do whatever you want.
I don't know if that's the same YouTube rules. I feel great. I don't know. This is a move. It's funny too, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this, but it's nice to see a superstar in LA maybe take a little less money to help the team win.
Kawhi already did it.
Sure.
Now so James Harden's doing it. Let's not forget what Kawhi Leonard said after his deal went through. The first game afterwards, post-game, they asked him about it. And he said at that time in January, it was something to the effect of, well, yeah, pretty much everybody's coming back. So we all assumed at that time the big three were going to return. That means James Harden to Russ fans. That means Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I'm never going to fault somebody, though, if Paul George ends up signing for the max with the Philadelphia 76ers for getting paid.
Get the max.
And getting the 4-year deal.
That's a bad decision.
Any athlete can get as much, should get as much as, you're worth what someone will pay you. That's the old line.
Absolutely.
And if that's what he's going for, and it's not like he's leaving one situation where he could win a ring for another situation where it's a rebuilding process or anything like that. If he leaves to go to Philly, they also have a chance to win a ring there. So he's not sacrificing the competitive spirit part of it or anything like that. He can have his cake and eat it too if he goes to Philly.
Yeah, and I'm
not going to fault him for that.
I did tell I had a baseball game earlier that I played in, and I have friends on that team who are big Phillies fans or 76ers fans, and they said, "What's the big deal with giving Paul George the max contract?" And I said, "Talk to me in 8 months, and we'll see how you feel about Paul George with the max contract. Paul George himself getting the max contract, go for it. No one watching, listening, talking would ever take a pay cut out of principle. I just don't. No disrespect, Adam. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm not taking pay cuts if someone's offering me money.
If the hometown discount or him giving them a hometown discount isn't enough because you're talking about the difference of like $45-50 million, I get it. That's a huge number. That's a huge difference. And I certainly get it from the Clippers side too, especially now that James Harden is only on a 2-year deal. He's only on a 2-year deal. So the idea of lining up all three on 3-year contracts, that's already out the window. This is a new development, what we just saw with the 1-1 with James Harden.
Yeah. It's a new, and it's also, I think this is the kind of contract we can expect to see with the new apron. As we can see guys taking these deals where it's maybe less to help right? Like, because LeBron might take way less money or a max. So, like, we're in this new weird, this very fair question. Mike Dang, if you're new to the pod, it's usually Adam, myself, and Will Updike. Will is unavoidably detained because we do sometimes do things that are not this podcast. He might pop in, he might not. We'll figure it out. But right now we're celebrating James Harden. I'm choosing to celebrate this. This is a level of cap optimism that none of us had before 20 minutes ago or whatever the hell it was. And it makes probably losing Paul George for nothing, an easier pill to swallow.
Can you put up the Eric comment?
The Jazz just waived Omar Yurt 7. Now, why would the Jazz? No,
easy, Wendy.
Eric, shout out LOL WTF. Eric, go follow him on Twitter and Instagram right now. Wonderful art.
I love Eric. This is not true. If his decisions were always basketball first, he wouldn't have had a problem with Philly doing him dirty like that, or just he would have taken whatever that contract was from them. He clearly likes being a Clipper. He clearly likes being in LA. The money has mattered to him. This is a guy who turned down $160 million before with the Brooklyn Nets because he thought he could get more. So money has been a factor until this point, apparently. This is the turning point for James Harden. Truly, the Clippers, I give them all the credit in the world for making this. Yes, he had a problem with being lied to in Philly. But again, I just went back even further than that. He turned down 160 with the Brooklyn Nets to try to get more money. Like, money has mattered to him. It very much has until now. So some type of culture, some type of maybe he's really into the Intuit Dome. He's excited for that. They're selling him on something more than just the dollar signs here.
Absolutely. And some people, I just put a great primer on the signing from Robert Flom of 213 Hoops in there. You could maybe point that, like, oh, maybe it's an overpay or whatever at $35 million a year. DeMar DeRozan's making 40. You want to talk about an overpay? That's an overpay. For what?
I love OG Anunoby. He just got $200 million.
For what Harden brings to this team in terms of durability, total minutes, all that stuff that the Clippers have desperately needed. On this deal, it's like it's hard to be mad at it, even if you hate James Harden. He didn't hamstring. He helped the Clippers cap situation, which, again, surprising. I'll take it. It's hard to be really upset at this deal, all things considered.
It does open up more sign and trade possibilities for the Clippers. I don't know who those guys are they're signing and trading. Who's a Clipper free agent that they're going to do? You're saying coming from the other side, because if you could absorb a sign and trade from another team if you're under the first apron, because you can only do that as the team receiving the player if you're under the first apron, because it will hard cap you.
Right.
So it's a possibility. I still think it's difficult to pull off a sign and trade in today's NBA. We talked about it recently, but we believe Kevin Durant might have been the last one. So 2019, it's just become, a fossilized maneuver.
And so
it's petrified wood.
Another thing that people need to trade exceptions. Trade exceptions mean nothing. They're not used like 95% of the time. So don't let anyone try and talk you into a trade exception being a nice thing for the Clippers if there's a PG sign and trade thing. Now I'm wondering, we have point guard 1 locked up. We have James Harden locked up. Now, are we in the same boat of who is point guard 2? Because Tomer Azarli, wonderful Clippers reported that Russ was not going to be on the team. Russ opted in. That what Tomer reported can still very much happen. But now, are we going to be stuck? Excuse me. are we going to have Russ
Is this live?
as the backup one? Because it doesn't work. We know it doesn't work.
It's not optimal for a team that desperately needs an injection of youth. I love Russell Westbrook, and you can argue that he might be the most athletic player on the team, even as he's going to be 36. But, guys, he's bottom 5 in efficiency at the rim and bottom 5 at efficiency from the outside. He's not good in the mid-range. You could call him a zero-level scorer at this point. I don't know what it is with his finishing ability at the rim and why it changed so much. Maybe because his hands are pretty mangled if you see them in person. Like a lot of the guys are later on in their careers. Jordan's hands, who has a finger that's sticking way out the other way. I don't know what it is, but his touch at the rim when he's going a million miles per hour.
It's not touch.
It was never great. But, yeah, it's hatchet, not scalpel, and he's not able to finish consistently at a high level at the rim. So even if he is athletic and can get downhill and get to the rim, if you're not finishing and smoking layups like that, guess what they turn into? Live ball turnovers going the other way. That's what it has been over the past year more often than not. The amount of times that I counted a team getting a wide open 3 in transition after Russell Westbrook is still on the floor because he went so hard at the rim and can't get back, and they have a 5-on-4, and it's a disadvantage for the Clippers. Teams are scoring in those situations over and over again. I love Russ. You know I'll be supporting him if he is on the team. But if you're talking about optimizing this squad, one of the big themes that we have mentioned on this podcast is there needs to be a youth movement. And how does that happen if you continue to hang on to veterans who are past their prime when you actually have a guy that could be the backup point guard that thought he had the backup point guard job going into last season in Bones Highland? When is that guy going to get a true shot before he ends up leaving for nothing or you get a second-round pick for him? Do you not want to find out about the untapped potential of a guy who just scored 40 in a game or almost did last year, who has had some really high moments, granted limited time because of the situation, but he has shown enough to me where the talent is tantalizing enough, where those Lou Williams comparisons aren't meaningless.
If the Clippers decide, because CP3 waived, which is kind of crazy, I thought. I mean, 30 mil is a lot, but if they bring in CP3 and they don't give Bones the backup, I will be genuinely furious isn't the right word, but very annoyed at the Clippers because CP3 has 1 year of maybe being good, and he was not good last year. And it should be Bones.
He was all right when he was somewhat healthy. I thought he was all right, honestly. I didn't think he was bad. The fit was interesting.
Russ played 23 minutes a game. Can CP3 give us 23 minutes a game? That's crazy.
Well, if it was, we know who Bones is. Enough with this Bones stuff. All right, Gregory Elwood, tell me who Bones is. You got the scouting report? Tell me. He's not a top-tier player. We're not asking him to be a top-tier player. We're asking him to get you 15 and 5 a night coming off the bench. He very well may be capable of that. He was averaging 16 points per game the first 4 games of last season, an efficient 16 points per game before the James Harden rumors and before he was replaced. Don't tell me we know who Bones is at this point. I'm sorry. We don't. He hasn't gotten nearly enough time. He is not effective. Really, a guy who has hit three-pointers on high volume that can stretch the floor is not effective. You're just talking. You're just yapping. Sorry, but the last couple of days, we are not here for the BS. Are we not?
Where are we at on the Klay Thompson thing? Because I don't know if the Clippers can offer as much as the Mavs or the Lakers. Because right now, the Clippers do not have an exception, I believe, to offer Klay Thompson.
Denver didn't want him because he and Jamal Murray do not work on the court. 2 small guys like that. Do you guys not understand that?
Are you still arguing with people about Bones?
It's like they have no frame of reference here.
You just got to let it go.
All right, Klay Thompson. To get him, I think you'd have to get under the first apron to offer that full mid-level exception, right? Just to get in the ballpark.
I believe so, yeah.
Because then you're saying 13 million.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Klay's coming here. It just doesn't. This isn't scuttlebutt. You know what I'm saying? I don't think we have the money. I don't think we have anything for him to. You know what I mean?
I would tend to think he's going to be a Laker based upon Michael Thompson, his dad, and there have been rumors out there really for a damn decade that if he ever leaves Golden State, he'll end up being a Laker. Now, I would say this: if it wasn't for, and I'm still kind of reeling from this, it's hard to wrap my head around the unfortunate passing of Jerry West. That's the guy who held on to him at Golden State and made sure he stayed there. And he wasn't traded for Kevin Love. He was the one who was rumored to put his foot down that Klay's the perfect match next to Steph Curry. Obviously, he was right and prophetic in that. Back in 2014, he was talking about this. 2015, when Kevin Love was a monster, putting up Moses Malone type numbers on the Timberwolves, it was Jerry West who knew that the best guy to play next to Steph Curry was not pairing him with a big. It was evolving and playing smaller and playing out on the perimeter and floor spacing, and that's Klay Thompson, who I think is the best spot-up shooter ever. Steph's the best overall shooter ever because he does it off the bounce more. That's Jerry West in a nutshell, just being ahead of everyone.
Yeah, so Klay not coming to the Clippers, it doesn't seem like.
I don't think it's off the table completely.
Yeah,
I really don't. But they have first things first. You'd have to get into the first apron,
right? So also we are 29 minutes into free agency. There was the Chris Haynes tweet. If anybody missed it, what was it? The Sixers. He tweeted it at He tweeted that at. I'm losing my damn mind. Where the hell is it? Oh, yeah. 2 hours ago, Chris Haynes tweeted, Bleacher Report sources, there's growing optimism the Philadelphia 76ers will land Paul George in free agency. That was 2 hours ago. There's been some scuttlebutt coming in. A lot of people chatted this at us. Batum is not returning to the Sixers. Yeah, bring Batum back on a minimum.
Could that sway Paul George one way or the other, since he was just talking about losing Nicholas Batum and Rocco?
Paul George definitely doesn't have a plan B, so I could totally see that happening. Am I wrong?
Do you think it's over at this point, or what percentage chance do you see him returning to the Clippers right now?
Oh man, I'm 15 maybe. Like,
not nothing.
If it's the matter of an extra year, which the Clippers don't want to give them, and the Sixers want to give it that, it's just, I don't know, 15, maybe less.
I'll go a little bit above that. I'll say like
17?
25, 30%.
1 and 3?
Yeah. Because of what, like Paul George, I do think he's someone that values being home in Palmdale a lot. I do think that's very meaningful to him. I do think being next to his parents, having them easily at every game, it's one you can always say, well, they could just fly him all over the place. Yeah, they're not going to want to do that and just be away from home all the time, traveling with their son. It's one thing to go to games and be able to go home right afterwards. It's not the same. I think, family matters, especially at this point. Not to bring up the Drake Kendrick.
We all know what side we're on. Beef. We're on the winning side. We're on the LA team. We're on Kendrick's side.
Oh yeah, I said Carlo Jimenez asked me this on the air when the beef was starting to percolate early on. I'm like, well, I got K-Dot.
He's a child. K-Dot. Yeah, he's a 20-something, so that makes sense. Carlo.
Well, I'm interested in that storyline.
Rock brought up a good point. What's the point of being under the apron and still reaching for older 1-year retirement guys? That's a great point. For guys like Bones and things like that, they need chances. The young guys need chances. Yes, if we have $13 million to give to a 4 who can be great depth, do that. I mean, old backup points, I'm tired of that.
Well, if you're saying CP3, you don't like that. I don't put Klay Thompson in that category.
No, I don't think Rock does either. But Klay would be helpful.
I do think
more helpful than Chris Paul, I think.
Klay has enough left because, first of all, he gives effort defensively always. He's not who he was coming off the ACL and then the Achilles tear. He's taken the biggest dip in his play on that end. But shooting is the last thing to go. And he is still a good fit, especially on offense on that end to help stretch the floor. And I think part of his numbers at times being really up and down the past year were the pressure of the contract and the looming decision when he is a legacy guy up north with the Golden State Warriors. I think that was weighing heavily on him. He's an emotional guy. I love his personality. I have loved Klay Thompson forever. Back when he got caught smoking weed and as a Cougar at Washington State, people made such a big deal about that, which sounds
Have you ever been to Pullman?
No, just Pullman. Oregon and Eugene, which also does.
Pullman sucks. Pullman is a horrible city. So smoking weed there makes total sense. Someone was asking us on Twitter if this means the Clippers can sign Hartenstein, and if they give him $13.5 million exception, they could.
I don't think that's going to be enough.
I also don't, but I mean that's what they got.
That would be awesome,
dude. That would be fucking
to right that wrong. That would be amazing. But wasn't he just making $10 million last year?
Yeah,
with the Knicks,
the Thunder can sign him to a big deal. Yeah,
the Thunder is the team I think that's going to get him. It's the perfect fit, and it makes them very, very, very difficult to beat because then Chet doesn't have to worry about banging with that bird chest that he has.
Oh yeah, it sounds like OKC's in Oregon to meet with Isaiah Hartenstein. Why is Isaiah Hartenstein in Oregon? Yeah, it sounds like
that's cooked.
Hartenstein's not coming back.
I've thought that the entire time they're going to end up with him, and it's a brilliant move. My God,
that sucks for us.
With Alex Caruso now, who they didn't have to give up a first for because Chicago, for whatever reason, didn't ask or play enough hardball. Can I ask you this? Because I put it in the text earlier today.
Yeah, and then we should answer this question from Carlos because this is a fair question that a lot of people have.
Okay, start with this then because mine's more out there.
Carlos Aceto's asking, as a guy who doesn't know much about contract talk, do we gain money with Paul George walking, or is it not till the next year that we get more money to sign someone? So if Paul George walks, he opted out of that $48 million. We don't have that $48 million. We can't just use that money to pool and sign somebody for $48 million. It helps us with cap relief and getting under the second apron, which getting under the separate apron gives you some exceptions. You can aggregate people in trade. So you can trade two $7.5 million guys for one $15 million guy, and your draft picks don't get frozen to be last, no matter what happens. So, yeah, fair question. It's very confusing. This salary cap is asinine. It makes no sense that the owners agreed to it. Adam, your question.
And we know SISDA won. It would be a long shot to get Isaiah Hartenstein back. It's likely not going to happen. It would just be sweet if it did.
Exactly. Yeah, we would love it.
McConaughey, dazed and confused.
Yeah, be a lot cooler if it did, but that's where we're at.
It's not going to happen. So I brought this up a little bit earlier because there was a rumor out there in our little group chat that Chicago is having such a hard time or so adamant about getting off the contract with Zach LaVine, which still has 3 more years. The last year is a player option for $48 million. It goes 45, 46, and then I think 48.
It's not good.
That they're offering a first-round pick with Zach LaVine to try to get off of that contract.
What do we trade them?
I think it starts around PJ Tucker. Because
you're preaching to the choir. So yeah,
I'm trying to sell you on this move. I figure I'd start there. So that's $11 million. Then I assume you'd have to include Russ. That's $5 million.
This feels like This feels like a pandering trade.
Huh?
I would love this. If it's Russ, it's PJ, it's Norm for money.
Maybe Norm. Maybe
LaVine
Norm to get his $20 million in there. Now we're at $35 million, $36 million.
Yeah.
He's at 45. Is that within 75% or whatever it needs to be? It's close.
Well, because
you have to put in a little extra,
right?
If you get under, I'm saying, yeah.
So you add Amir.
Maybe you add Amir Coffee. I'm not saying Chicago is dysfunctional and poorly run.
This is a funny.
But I am saying they did not get a first from the OKC Thunder for Alex Caruso, who has 17 first-round picks, and they still managed to not get a first somehow and just did it straight up for Josh Giddey. You may be able to take advantage of that situation. I know the injury history with LaVine. I know it. I know how bad it's been. I also have been a big fan of his going back to UCLA, where he shot 38% from three coming out of college. And a lot of people didn't know that in his 1 year there. And they just limited him to being a dunker
really?
because he was in dunk contests early on. Well, guess what? Shooter. Now he's a great shooter. Yeah. Now he's proven that. And he's had to be a number one option at times. Zach LaVine as a third option, if healthy, I know it's a big if, as it always is with the Clippers.
But do we get the pick, right? Like the pick.
You get a first-round pick out of it too, which could end up being a lottery pick because it's coming from Chicago. That is not the worst thing.
The trade, let me get on Fanspo right now because I think
LaVine's shot is pure.
It's a nice shot.
It is pure snow.
He's also from the Pacific Northwest, which, real hoopers up there.
He also played ball at UCLA.
Real hoopers up in the Pacific Northwest, if you know ball.
Sorry, I'm Crawford.
I'm fucking around on Fanspo right now. So you said, I guess we could screen share this if we wanted to.
Man, we have the technology.
Yeah,
we have the power now.
Also, for those of you who've been on Twitter, and if you think that we've been on edge, it's just because people ask us to go live. Stop asking us to do that. We'll go live when we go live. I don't know how else to say it. Okay, so what do we got? We got
Zach, fired up.
We got so we got Zach LaVine, and you said PJ Tucker as the expiring, Russell Westbrook as whatever, Norman Powell. I do this a lot on the Bleacher Report things. Let's see. I don't think this gets us. Well, okay. Well, I don't think the Bulls would do this.
Within 75%. It's within 75%, apparently.
I don't think they would do this, but if they're having this much trouble, they get an expiring from PJ who they can stretch and waive. Russell Westbrook can be the backup to Josh Giddey, which sounds like a point guard rotation that makes me want to jump into traffic. And then you get Norm Powell, who is a good scoring off the bench basketball player. I don't know. This would be chaos, but I'd be down for it.
It is, of course, risky with Zach LaVine because of his injury history and because of the Clippers and what they're already dealing with when it comes to guys staying healthy. We know that. Guys, I've watched him to his point, to Guy Fieri's point here. I have watched a ton of Zach LaVine, and there have been times.
I was like, why are you calling him Guy Fieri?
Where he is a much better defender when he wants to be than he typically shows, or the analytics shows, which are always tough to measure guys defensively based off the analytics because it's such a team defense thing.
Oh, something just happened. Jake Fisher just reported. With Russell Westbrook having opted into his $4 million for this 24-25 season, the Clippers are now working to find a trade for Westbrook. League sources tell Yahoo Sports.
Well, are they watching the live right now? Because we just put one up there.
we have a great one. Yeah.
And that didn't include the first-round pick. I just wonder, how desperate do you have to be to offer a first-round pick? Will you take anything, including cap relief in the form of $16 million based upon Westbrook and PJ Tucker coming off the books after this year? And then you have one more year of Norman Powell, who would be an asset for them to trade on an expiring deal for $18 million, who is and should have been top 3 and 6 man of the year voting and one of the most efficient guys off the bench in the NBA. It's not nothing getting Norman Powell in there.
No, he obviously doesn't. He does what Lou Will does minus the pick and roll, which is a very big thing that Lou Will did. Obviously, I don't want to discredit.
To be fair, is a much more efficient outside shooter than Lou Will was.
Yes,
he could create for himself better, but spot up Norm is absolutely deadly.
People like your hat.
Say you like my hat.
Really Hood, I don't know how to pronounce this, said the starting power forward position needs to be addressed. Very fair. Who is the starting four? Like, genuinely, I don't. Who is the starting four, dog?
You haven't brought up, not that he is the replacement or the starting four. But we haven't talked about DeMar DeRozan yet.
I don't want the fit, dude. The fit with him and Kawhi is brutal.
I get that. I just wouldn't hate it if you stagger him a lot with the second unit and play more around him and feature him more there. That's not bad. As in, he's the guy who comes out in the first 4 or 5 minutes in the first quarter and then plays heavy minutes with the second unit. He has taken more threes as of late. I'm not saying he's the starting power forward. Right. Aside from this starting power forward question, as we stall here, I understand. DeMar, because we're talking Chicago as well, if you could get him for $13 million and it's a short contract, I'm probably not kicking it out of bed. I'm probably not turning it down.
The classic Musburger. Is that a Musburger line?
There aren't a ton of options, right? For guys at that salary that you would want. You talked about this yesterday. It's not a robust market. It isn't. So beggars can't be choosers either.
I want to point out, I want to describe this as nasty that just came out, and I think this is really annoying, and I kind of want to talk about it right now. It just happened. It's from a Brian Windhorst thing. Apparently, when they signed Kawhi Leonard to that deal, they never told Paul George about it. This feels like spin from Paul George's camp to be like, see, this is why I'm leaving. Well, you know what the Clippers did do for Paul George? Sign all of his friends, sign every point guard that he publicly asked for. Like, just at this point, just go. Go to Philly. We're sorry we didn't tell you that Kawhi Leonard signed a deal. You had to read about it in the paper the next day. Just go, man. Go get your extra year. Good. Get away. Am I wrong? Sorry. This just feels so spinny and so gross. And again, like someone who doesn't have a plan B. Sorry, I went a little hard right there, but this
I don't sign off on all that, but I will say this. The spinny part, I could see that based upon what Law Murray said recently of how close Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are. I find it somewhat hard to believe that he had no idea whatsoever when he and Kawhi Leonard are boys to the level they are. I find it hard to believe.
Right. Like, that's just crazy.
But I'm not going to say just go to Philly at this point. If he wants to come back on a team-friendly 3-year deal, I think it would still be nice to have Paul George.
Hey, Paul George coming back on 3 for $150, it would be absolutely hilarious. And it would just, again, go to show that he was one of the most front of the face, nothing out, not step two superstars of all time. It would be so the only word is hilarious if Paul George comes back on a team-friendly deal.
Can we talk about a little
What's the best restaurant in Philadelphia that he's getting wined and dined at? Just stay here.
I was just in Philadelphia. I tried all the cheesesteaks. There's a good place called Punk Burger. Very underrated. But I had the two big cheesesteaks that go
Geno's and Pat's.
I had them both the same night as I arrived in Philadelphia when I was there with photo ops for the concert with Camera Obscura. I ordered both of them off of DoorDash, tried them both. Pat's was better, and both were still mid. It was a mid-off.
The brand
Philly's
is
best over here in Burbank is better than what I had there.
Have you been to Booze in Silver Lake?
I'm there.
Everyone I know from Philadelphia who lives in LA says Booze Philly cheesesteak in Silver Lake is the one to go. You get the whiz, you maybe get a mushroom steak or something. I actually had it yesterday.
Should we go there if Paul George goes to Philadelphia and like pour one out for him or something like that?
Oh, hold on.
We have fun with that?
I'm super down. Shams just tweeted out the Clippers are actively trying to move Russell Westbrook. Yeah, great. Gone.
They are watching. They're watching, guys. They're here with us right now. Is the front office in the room with us?
Yeah, Lawrence Frank's over here.
No, it's nothing against Russ. It's just about team building. It's just about sustainability. It's about the future of the franchise.
He's just not good at basketball anymore. Yeah, this is, having I don't know if the Clippers, so they already got Harden on a more team-friendly deal than we thought he was going to come on, which was going to be 3 for 120, 3 for 100, whatever.
This is a blessing.
2 for 70 is great. If we also move off of Russell Westbrook today and get someone who can be more effective, this is a wonderful start to the free agency.
They have someone, Bones Highland. There's one on the team that's already more effective.
Oh, I want to take a quick, because we are going to put this out as audio. We're going to take a quick ad break so we know where one of us has to put the ads in at 40-ish minutes. And we're back. If you're watching us on video, you didn't see anything change. People are talking about Tobias Harris as the starting 4. We've been there.
No. I have no issue with Tobias Harris. Like, he was a great Clipper.
They're also not.
His last shot was a game winner against Charlotte.
They're also. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. We know what the rotation looks like right now. This is a team that is maybe on the outside looking in of contender status. I'm not saying they're not a good team.
That's fair.
I'm not saying that they can't be top 5, whatever. But at that top tier, having Tobias Harris ride out this era, the Kawhi Leonard era, whatever, then we can start getting some picks and whatnot. It wouldn't be the worst thing. But again, that's if you have expectations for this team that are quasi-based in reality and who's on the team.
Here's people's perception on Tobias Harris that's off. I see you do not want Tobias Harris, LOL. The difference of Tobias Harris making $40 million like he was, playing under the pressure of Philadelphia, versus getting the mid-level exception now to be a 4th option or whatever with the Clippers is night and day. You will get a different guy. You may get the guy or closer to the guy you had with the Clippers. I'm not going to hate on Tobias Harris like that because I know the Philadelphia situation was very unique. And yeah, that pressure can break people. It can. It's insane there. They booed Santa Claus. They will destroy you. They will just. Paul George, I'm sure, is taking this into account. Like, you have to be aware.
Is he?
Well, somebody in his camp needs to be. Philadelphia is unforgiving.
A lot of people asking where Will is at. We got to let him know that the chat misses him. We have no idea what Will's doing. He just said he wasn't at his house, which could mean anything.
It was also because Elton Brand kept him over Jimmy Butler. He was always being compared to Jimmy Butler in Miami. That added to it as well. Would be a totally different situation wherever he goes. And I wouldn't hate it.
No, I mean, again, and we're not rebuilding, but in this new cap of what the second apron is, this is what kind of not a full-blown rebuild looks like. This is what it looks like. We don't have a lot of depth. We don't. As much as you love this team, people aren't knocking down the door to trade for a bunch of guys that aren't Paul George or anything like that. Like, this is kind of what the rebuild looks like.
Yeah, Scott Tran reset expectations a little bit, right?
I think Scott Tran's 100% right too. He's going to be like, I had no idea that Philly was so passionate. This is crazy.
He'll say, I know, but I didn't know.
Yeah. He's going to be like, my welcome to the league moment, getting a AAA battery thrown at the windshield of my car. And also right now, everyone's waiting on Paul, like, not just the Clippers. Free agency itself is held up by PG, right? Is that, Adam, would you?
To some extent, I think. He's the biggest guy out there. The first domino to fall could set the mark.
He's the biggest piece
for other players. Yeah, if once he gets his money, it could tell you how everybody else is going to be slotted in afterwards and what they're capable of getting. And by the way, there was a report earlier today that Orlando is willing to offer him the max as well. So the two teams,
no tax,
that
it's all about the money,
are competitive and have max money available that could bring him in easily. They are reportedly offering him the max in Orlando and in Philadelphia. So for him to come back to the Clippers on a 3-year, he wouldn't just be turning down one team. He'd be turning down two for an extra $50-60 million. I'm not going to blame him if that's what
not nothing
ends up enticing him to leave.
It's not nothing. So I want to be full. We should be transparent for some people. Junction is asking who are some MLE targets you like. We haven't looked that far ahead, man. I'm really sorry. They might not have even had an extent. Yeah, Klay, I guess. Like
DeMar.
They haven't really had the extension for. I mean, they might not even if Paul George returns, but we will have that info. I think he's going to the Lakers.
Valanciunas is?
Yeah, because what do you do with Zoo if we get Valanciunas?
Well, I mean, he's a backup. I would make him.
That would be great. And the Zoo extension. So there was a tweet, or no, there was something from the Jake Fisher article earlier today that the Zubats extension is like number 3 on their priority list or something. Like it's like figure out the PG shit, figure out Harden, and then the Zubats extension. So I would not be surprised if we get some Zubats extension news soonish.
Zoo casuals will be, but we won't. He's been a top 5 rim protector for over 5 years, guys.
I'm not.
It's one of the most valuable skills you can have in today's league. Protect the rim.
Help Shanina out. What's the restaurant in Burbank?
Billy's Best, off of, I believe, Olive Avenue. There's a McDonald's near it. There's a 7-Eleven.
Let us know what you think.
Go to all 3,
and then come to Echo Park, and we'll go to Booze, and we can see what happens, Shanina. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know. This it's a weird end. The 2-3 era might be over, but the team friendly deal is nice. Like we might get rid of Russ. I don't know what we trade Russ for. Seconds, picks. What is a $4 million Russell Westbrook worth in the trade?
Yeah,
I mean that sincerely.
It could get them a young player, a young unproven player with some upside. That's probably what you're looking at.
Wait, is Fashizzle, Bedizzle, Carl Tarts, Burner?
Well,
would y'all like Drummond as a backup?
He's going to have to admit that Drummond is a great 3-point shooter before I believe it's Carl.
Yeah, Drummond is a backup C. I don't know, man. No.
Wouldn't hate it as a backup. No.
Yeah, like I don't as a backup, whatever. Russ to Denver and the Reggie Jackson TPE. Hey, fuck it. I
feel like Denver probably would do it, but
Denver wanted Russ. They were supposedly in on Russ before he opted in, was the report. But I cannot picture Russell Westbrook playing within the system that Denver plays into.
That's why I was surprised.
This is a great point from Junction right here. We need to add some regular season merchants. This is a phenomenal. You're 100% correct. That was the issue with the part of the depth we lost in that Harden trade is we didn't have guys to throw in there and go get stocks or things like that. This is a great point. They need innings eaters, not to use. I hate when you cross over sports metaphors. But that's why when people are talking about Julius Randle, he's a regular season merchant. We all know that. Like Brandon Ingram, regular season merchant. Like those are the kind of guys. This is a great point. And I hope that's what the Clippers are looking for.
I'm not giving up on Brandon Ingram now that they could get below the first apron, by the way.
We're getting some more sandwich wrecks, which if you have sandwich wrecks in SoCal, toss them in. Thank you, Jose. Bay City Sandwiches in Santa Monica. Best spot. Got okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Let's fire up the sandwich wars. Let's go.
Hey, no one loses in a sandwich war. No one's ever lost in a sandwich war because it just means more sandwiches.
It's not like a headbutt where everyone loses.
Yeah, no shit.
As Paul Blart, Mall Cop said.
Yeah, I don't.
Can I entice you with Brandon Ingram? Can I sell you on that? My point would be this. I know he has struggled in a playoff series recently. He just turned 27, I believe. He is just entering his prime and is a midi assassin and can shoot from the outside. His defense.
Oh my God. Sorry, that was not to you. That was just to a tweet that I saw that I will show after you.
I'm just saying with Ingram, you could be getting a guy at the right time. Now you have to pay him after this year, but it's a high ceiling play on a player that still has untapped potential. Remember all the comparisons with him and Kevin Durant when he was coming out of Duke? Well, that's completely unfair. Nobody's going to be Kevin Durant. But he may be like half, 40%, and that's still a good player. He's been an all-star. And again, young guys like that with his skill set that are just entering their prime that are available is pretty rare. The Pelicans have soured on him. It looks like they're moving on. They have DeJounte Murray, and it sounds like they're keeping CJ McCollum over Brandon Ingram. If the fit doesn't work there, it could easily work somewhere else. I just would not give up on a player that young, who, by the way, has also played in LA before. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
He can be a little bit of a black hole at times on offense, but we're talking about someone who's still malleable in entering his prime.
Malleable is key, because that's what this team likes, is getting people within the system.
I see him and the Zach LaVine opportunity, considering you get a first out of that, as rarities that you could at least take a look at.
Yeah, that's fair.
Those aren't non-starters to me. Both of those. Depending on what they want, yeah, it could turn out to be a non-starter, but or it could turn out to be a bad deal, and I wouldn't do it. But I'm interested. I'm listening.
Okay, I have to put up a tweet.
Is this the one that got your ire?
Yes, because this shit is insane. And if Clippers fans want to continue to live in the past about what this man did, then go for it. I almost don't want to say who it's from. I'm not. I'm going to block out who it's from.
No, we want the smoke.
Okay, it's from Farbod. He said, I honestly don't think Russell Westbrook got a fair shake on the Clippers. Played his absolute ass off in the 2023 playoffs and showed he could still have big games. Immediately got a short lease and cut short in 2024. Unfortunate ending last season, but still did great things. I want to preface this by saying I am an equal lover of analytics and the eye test. I love both of those things. I think both of those things should exist in harmony when you look at players. What the fuck are we talking about with Russell Westbrook here? I love the guy's passion. I love the pop from the crowd when Russell Westbrook steps on the court. He was bad. He was not good. He was bad. Why? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here. He didn't get a fair shake. He got over 20 minutes a game as the backup point guard. What are we doing here? Sorry. This is crazy. Am I wrong? What's a fair shake? He should start? What the fuck are we talking about here?
I think he got a fair shake in the playoff series where they didn't have Kawhi for most of it, and when they did, he wasn't Kawhi. And he ended up going 8 for 42.
What the fuck?
The last 5 games of that playoff series where they desperately needed help, and he went 8 for 42. It wasn't because he had a diminished role. It was because he's always been limited and been a playoff lowerer, not a riser. His game doesn't translate well because he works well in chaos, and the playoffs are much more deliberate and methodical.
It's fucking crazy. And Farbod is a great Clippers reporter, but
Farbod.
Dog, he didn't have what does he need? It's Russ and 5 centers to all catch a 98-mile-an-hour pass when he dribbles into 3 defenders.
If you
and I like Russ
at the rim anymore, and you keep smoking layups that hard, guess what? They aren't turnovers in the box score, technically, but they are, guys.
He didn't get a fair shake.
Turnovers.
He didn't get a fair shake. 20-plus minutes as the backup point guard on a contending team. What is the fair shake for Russell Westbrook then? And again, I love the guy. He's a great person. He's a wonderful humanitarian, incredibly stylish. To add to it, seemingly a great father. No, he didn't get a fair shake. What's a fair shake?
I always have said about Russell Westbrook that in his prime, he can take a bad team in the regular season and raise their ceiling and get them a 6 seed like he did when he won the MVP. I think the first time averaging a triple-double. That wasn't a great team around him. He can raise a team and their floor there.
10 years ago, yeah.
We're talking about him getting out of the first round, though, since he left KD one time. In the playoffs, it doesn't work. And on an elite team or a team with much more talent like the Clippers, it's not as necessary what he does because everything has to be built around him. Everything has to be built around him. To build around a guy who's 36 or whatever he's turning now and very limited and not being able to finish layups anymore, and he still can't shoot, that's just what team's going to do that? I mean,
where is he supposed to go?
Don't you think he wouldn't have opted in if the market was robust for Russell Westbrook? If somebody was going to give him $50 million to go be a featured player on their team, don't you think he wouldn't have opted in? I think we're finding out about his value at this point, and he's an all-time Hall of Fame player, a top 75 player ever. But he's always been limited in certain areas in his prime, and he certainly is now on the back end of it.
It's just he didn't get a fair shake. What the fuck? Anyway, sorry, got heated. All right, we're coming up on an hour now. No Paul George news. Will supposedly popping in at some point.
I say we keep it going. Somebody said 24-hour pod. Let's just go. We can stick with go as long as ESPN is going today with their coverage.
Well, I have
just
to cook
as long as them.
I have to cook for some people in a few.
I think you were just cooking a second ago. Rock says if we can get rid of Westbrook and Tucker without giving up anything would be a bonus.
It'd be huge. It'd be phenomenal. For the Andre Drummond heads, he's going to the Sixers.
Ooh, that's interesting. So is that going to take up any of the salary? That could be a max slot for Paul George. Does it say for how much? Probably not.
10 mil.
10 mil?
10 million plus deal.
They're going to have to I could still see it. I said yesterday, maybe he only gets 190 or 180 from Philadelphia. You know?
Yeah.
But it's not the 150-ish still. It's a 30 or 50 or 40 million more dollars than the Clippers were offering. That's still significant.
Yeah. People are saying Chris Haynes tweeted about Russ. Yeah, he just tweeted that it was probably his last game for the Clippers.
And I'm still going to remember some of the good times, like game one against the Philadelphia 76ers and the effort he gave in that series for an undermanned Clippers team. It's just on an elite team, I don't think he's a great fit because he's so erratic with his chaotic style, and you don't know what you're getting possession to possession.
Law Murray, so the 76ers just signed Andre Drummond. Probably means Paul Reed is gone, which is something there.
Okay.
Which is something with a possible option and trade there.
Wasn't Paul Reed on the Clippers like 5 or 6 years ago?
We have to put this up because this is a great thing from Makoto Bodo. Who is Andy J. Puente? Andy J. Puente, I believe, from all I've seen, is just another dude who's decided to get in on engagement farming during free agency season. So he's just aggregating existing reports. And I don't even think what I'm saying is like disrespectful or anything. He just takes people's reports and puts them on his Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have any sources.
Twitter poachers.
Yeah, like it's not.
Looking for the ivory. We see it all too often nowadays. People rephrase it and they make a living doing that. I mean, it's no different than people on YouTube playing a clip and then reacting to it and trying to make it seem like they have breaking news with their screaming headline they put on it.
Yeah. All right, we got to show Eric's new art because it's good.
Ooh, now we're talking. Eric, where's he at?
Will Updike. Hold on. We got a Will Updike here.
Let's go.
What's up?
We're celebrating Harden.
I just overheard some Charles yelling. Was there some Russ? There was some Russ stuff going on.
Yeah, Farbod was tweeting about how Russ never got a fair shake with the Clippers.
Okay.
I don't think some people understand who Russell Westbrook is as a basketball player and never did.
What?
I think it kind of is a Rorschach test.
What fairer of a shake could he have gotten? We looked this up the other day. He averaged like 23 minutes.
Right. It doesn't exist. The shake does not exist.
He should have stayed a starter so they could have been 0-15 before they took him to the bench.
Just insane. But this is the new art from LOL WTF Eric.
Awesome.
Kawhi's 33. He's in Costa Rica. Enjoying his time.
Looking great. Loving life.
Yeah.
He looks like a damn movie star.
That's just the kind of relaxation you need before you lead this country to a gold medal.
Yeah. No. Jose Cuervo Nasso, are we drinking beer? This is a LaCroix.
Mountain Dew diet.
I got a vodka soda.
All right, vodka soda, good call. Maybe
what are you guys drinking? Watching us.
Yeah, that's true. Shark in the Box, that's very funny. We have live streamed from separate rooms in the same apartment, but we do not live together.
We do not live together. We get asked that a lot, though. That's a fair question.
If we had the space, if I had 3 bedrooms.
They are the Bert and Ernie of the Clips and Dip podcast.
Yeah. How are you feeling about the Harden thing? Oh, wait, hold on. We're going to maybe do another ad for the audio. So I'm going to clap right now. We're going to do an ad. And we're back. Will, how are you feeling about the Harden re-sign for 2 for $70?
Love it. I'm surprised about the years. Actually, just from his perspective, it's a very, very team-friendly deal. I feel like I just thought, he in the course of his career, just with the way he's done his contracts and, it seems like kind of got done dirty in Philly. I mean, he's left 50s, if not maybe $100 million in total career earnings on the table. So for him to get him at 2 for $70 is incredible. I don't know. I haven't really done the research on the full cap implications yet, but that still opens up a pathway for us to get under the first apron, correct?
Yeah. I mean, if Paul George leaves, I believe we are just kind of at under the first apron, which is sick. And again, 24 hours ago, if someone's like, hey, they're coming back and we're going to be under the first apron, I would fucking sign me up, dude. Let's absolutely get there. I don't know. I don't know. How are you feeling about the Paul George thing? Do you think he's just going to Philly? Do you think he's just gone?
That is still feeling like the most likely scenario. The only thing I think that could potentially change that is, if they're not willing to offer him the max.
Yeah, it's Orlando. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes down to Orlando or the Clippers, is he willing to take a pay cut at that point?
It's even more of a pay cut, though, because you mentioned the Florida taxes.
Yeah.
No, there's no. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, Justin Russo has also really smartly pointed out that, not only does it get them out of the tax, it gets them to stop paying the repeater tax if they get under the first apron for a year. So that's a potential savings. That's a potential savings of hundreds of millions of dollars.
I think it's $400 million.
Yeah,
it's kind of fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but to get out of
I don't care how rich you are. 400 million is 400 million.
Yeah, $500 million.
That's how much. That's how much the Bucks franchise went for 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a huge amount of money, and I agree. Walt Bonner is willing to spend the money. If you can get under that, you set yourself up for a good position. And looking at the free agent market this year being what it was,
same junction.
I think it's reasonable, especially if there's not say a LaVine deal or something out there, which I like. I'm not super high on it, but it is talent.
What about the first round pick?
Shaky health stuff. If there's not
a first round pick from Chicago, that could be a lottery pick.
Yeah,
it could even be a boat. Sorry.
Is that a Flexio commercial? Or?
No, it's from Family Guy when they can choose either a free boat or a mystery gift. And he goes, anything could be in the mystery thing. It could even be a boat. And
keep going, Will. What are your thoughts on LaVine?
I like it as I like an added scorer. Thank you. I got it at a thrift store. I like it as an added scorer. I mean, defensively not doing a lot. The injury stuff is troubling as well. What's that? How many years are left on that deal? Not that long, right? Is he
3
expiring?
years with an expiring on the last year? That's $48 million.
Oh,
he'll be 31 at the end of it.
It's not terrible.
you're in theory getting prime years.
Yeah,
if
he stays healthy.
I am probably an
not a winning basketball player though.
I honestly, I think it's been situational for him. Chicago hasn't been a winning place. It hasn't been a winning place for a long time since Jordan left. Since Derrick Rose and Tibbs and Jimmy Butler.
Since fucking Captain
they've been
Kirk
really
left.
mismanaged. Like, I think Zach LaVine in the right spot could pop and prove that narrative to be false. Honestly.
So this is what Junction brought this up earlier, Will. We need regular season merchants.
Yeah.
And LaVine is a regular season merchant.
Yeah, I mean, look, like
healthy.
With Paul George off this team, like the realistic possibility of this team winning a championship is nil.
That's what I was just we're
be
not
perfectly honest.
Contenders.
I mean, I like it. It's talent, and like for the regular season, if he stays healthy, that's a guy that can put up numbers. That's a guy that can microwave stuff when this offense sort of stalls out. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think that he's a nice compliment next to Harden too.
Catch and shoot guy.
Yeah,
I think that's a really interesting piece.
And to
but
be fair,
as far as like
health,
raising the ceiling of like what this team does, I mean, it does for the regular season. Like I said, this team is now out of its contender phase. So it's how do we put out the best possible on court product, and then how do we smoothly transition into the next phase of the what is going to be an eventual rebuild, because Kawhi, at the end of this contract is likely done in the NBA. And we've got to, hope that we retain what little young talent that we have and try to build around that and make something competitive and make something that's at least going to get asses in seats and into it.
I don't think the contender phase is over. I want to be honest about that.
That's foolish, but I appreciate your optimism.
I just saw a Dallas Mavericks team go to the finals that the Clippers with Kawhi and take out Paul George in that series are beating. You could take out Paul George in that first round series.
Yeah, great. The Clippers won't have Kawhi and Paul George next year.
No. You could take out Paul George and not even have him in that series and have Kawhi and James Harden, and they would have beat the Dallas Mavericks in the first round.
I mean, I don't know. That's revisionist history. They beat the Nuggets.
No, they didn't beat the Nuggets. They didn't have to. They didn't end up playing the Nuggets. Minnesota.
That's right. They didn't have to beat the Nuggets.
Okay, so there are paths where you can be more fortunate.
They beat the team that beat the Nuggets, though. So transitive property, they did beat the Nuggets.
I don't think that team was some unbeatable team by the Clippers in the first round, and they took them to 6. Like, I think if things break,
I agree,
your way,
but this Clippers team
is Kevin Porter Jr. is coming to the Clippers. 2-year deal with a player option.
Ooh, here for it. Okay, who had that?
Shams.
Let's go. Let's
go. Kevin Porter Jr.
Talk about getting younger. This is how you do it. Still not a contender, Will. Real-time contender just made right there with Kevin Porter Jr. Kevin Porter Jr. has look, I'm just saying, he's got a ton of talent. There have been off-the-court issues. There have been issues with the franchise there in Houston. This is not bad at all. This is, again, taking risks on guys. What did Lawrence Frank say about Kai Jones? He called them like fallen angels type guys.
Yeah, Kevin Porter
Jr. beat the shit out of his girlfriend.
Kevin Porter Jr. had some pretty rough stuff.
He has. And I'm just going off his on-the-court talent. This is how you can get a guy like that.
You're separating the art from the artist.
Unfortunately, you have to do that quite often in sports, too.
Sure, absolutely.
We do it all the time. And I don't like condemning young people. I don't. For the rest of their lives, depending on what it is, case-by-case basis, of course. But
do we want to run? We can. I mean, let me just look up his wiki because I want to have all the facts. He is from Seattle. He had a weapons charge.
He pled guilty to misdemeanor assault and a harassment violation after he attacked his girlfriend in a hotel, leaving her covered in blood with a deep cut above the right eye.
It's tough. I didn't know all the details there.
It seems like he also
what is
pressured
it
her
to hear. That's difficult to hear.
He also pressured her to change her statements to prosecutors after she was initially interviewed. Which is like a text mark move of DV cases.
When you get into the details, it's certainly going to be scrutinized. There's no doubt about it.
Well, he's a Clipper now.
I didn't know the extent of it. I was going more off of what happened with him in Houston. And I knew there was some malcontent stuff there.
Yeah. But he's a Clipper now. Yeah.
What was the contract?
2-year deal, including a player option. That's all we got.
Lucas Hand believes it's a minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, on a minimum.
So this is a take a flyer type thing.
Yeah.
Just like with Kai Jones.
Who isn't officially back yet, right?
No, he was like released.
Yeah, because they wanted to work out like a different deal.
Yeah, I believe Kai Jones released. Sorry.
I'm guessing this is something where, just like with past guys, we mentioned Kai Jones, but where the Clippers have been monitoring the situation for some time.
I think Kai Jones ends up on the Summer League team for sure. She should get a shot. We had Law on the show, and he talked about how they want to give Kai a shot at being the 5. He's an athletic 5. I think it makes sense to give him a shot at the 5. Like he's, that's what he should do.
Yeah.
For Shizzle Bizzle, is he any
They
good?
have to take chances right now on young guys. They simply have to. It is not sustainable in the new CBA to keep running it back over and over again with higher priced veterans. You either find out if a young guy can hack it or not and move on to the next one, or you just don't have sustainability in a franchise to continue to contend. The only way is to land on some young guys now. There's no other option.
Deals too, ideally.
Okay, Dime just had a really funny tweet. Dime just tweeted out, Clippers seem so image conscious, and then go out and you just go look at Dime Dopper's tweet. I think he brings up a good point. The Clippers are very image conscious, but then they make moves where sometimes you're just kind of confused. Yeah, I don't know. Fan base doesn't seem to like it on Twitter at all, but
it's certainly a flyer situation and a guy that is getting another chance because, like with Kai Jones, Lawrence Frank called him a fallen angel.
Who does he supplant? Like, who does he supplant though in the point guard rotation?
Yeah,
will
not
he be in the rotation? Will he make it, through all the way through training camp and make it onto the team, or is this just really a situation where they're going to have to see something early on here?
I think it's got to see something early on. He was playing in Greece, which is a pretty good league. But other teams didn't really want him.
This happened in January of this year when he pled to this deal. And essentially he was not on an NBA roster for a money and maybe second round picks move. He got moved to the Oklahoma City Thunder and they cut him immediately. And then no one picked him up.
I forgot he was on.
I think he's been playing in Greece, but it hasn't. I don't even know if it hasn't even been for a full season, probably.
In Greece, it's been like 6 weeks or so.
Yeah. It hasn't been super long.
Yeah,
someone tweeted out, Estefan Diar Barani tweeted out, NBA teams keep reminding you what their priorities are. That's not, it sucks. We're not saying that.
Sports teams, you could go a lot further than the NBA. Businesses continue to remind you what their priorities are. Yeah. I think, look, I'm not saying there's a statute of limitations on this. I do wonder when did the incident take place and what type of rehabilitation are we talking about here?
It's a court-ordered thing. I don't know. It's
court-ordered. It's like 18 weeks or something. I don't know.
Because the Clippers were very detailed about all the steps that Kai Jones went through, and I'm assuming this is the same thing.
Kai Jones didn't really have to go through steps. Primo.
No, but they were monitoring what he was doing as well. Primo for sure, but Kai Jones was the same with how much they knew about the therapy he was going through.
But he had no legal issues.
True.
He didn't have legal issues. He needed help with his brain, which all of us do at some points. So that's, I think, yeah. It's interesting. It's definitely a move where if you're the Clipper, you're just kind of like, why?
I'm just saying, I know they're not going into it blind. They know something aside from this part of his background. They're going to know what he's been doing since then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We'll fucking see, I guess.
Whether or not you disagree with it, when you know that information or not, it's a personal decision. It's an individual decision, of course. And again, we're talking about somebody that I don't think it's any guarantee that he's on the team. Because of the contract.
It's a flyer. It's got to be a minimum. We're not. This isn't a domino, really. When do we think? What time is it over in Philadelphia? 7, around 7:30 in Philly right now. When do we think the Paul George decision? Are we getting it Monday? Are we getting it tomorrow
on his pod?
I mean, is that completely out of the realm of possibilities for Paul George?
If I was him, I would do it. I would break it myself in the pod.
That right? Like, so is Monday on the pod like the next one? Is that when we're going to hear about PG's decision?
My guess is there probably is too much smoke and too many reports for him to be able to keep it quiet to end up breaking the news himself.
Yeah, but
they could be just so far down the path or getting there step by step. Who knows? Maybe he's coming back to the Clippers and he throws us for a loop here.
So that someone asked us in the chat, how would you feel if Paul George came back? Will, I said that if Paul George came back on a team-friendly deal, I would laugh my ass off. It'd be weird. It'd be weird, but
look, from a talent perspective, it's the best possible option. Like we're not going to do better for this next season. Could you hope to do better maybe like in the future if you could get assets? Sure, but that's out of the picture now. Like that's not happening. With the opt out, there's no way you can really reclaim any sort of assets. So Paul George is the best we can do if he can come back on a team friendly deal. Yeah, I mean that's a good outcome. I know he's an ardent watcher of this podcast, so we might have to trim a couple episodes. But from a talent perspective, it's the best. It is the best case scenario for the Clippers. I think with more time to work it out with Harden, certainly like a full offseason. I mean, you guys have heard me, and maybe I even put too much emphasis into it, but like I think of a healthy full offseason is huge for a team. Like it's massive, and it's one of those things the Clippers are rarely afforded, whether through injury or through midseason trade. So I do see a lot of potential there, but it just comes down to what is that team friendly contract, and at the end of that, like, are there hard feelings on either end? Because obviously, I don't think there is organizationally from the Clippers. I don't know how Paul George ultimately feels about that. But if he does test the market and find that the max isn't there for whatever reason, comes back on a team-friendly deal, I don't really know how you could be mad at the Clippers about that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at all. We got a buoy bomb in the chat. KCP is going to Orlando on a 1-year deal.
Love that. It's a great pit. That's a great ad.
It's crazy that, I mean, he was huge for the Nuggets.
Good.
And it is the minimum contract. La Murray just posted
and the Lakers
minimum contract with the Clippers.
So for those saying like, well, Bridges would make more sense. Like he's a position of need and has all this baggage. It's like, if you sign Bridges, he's definitely on the team.
I think that was mostly just a joke about the Clippers taking people with not good history of relationships.
This guy looks dead serious about it, but looks to go pretty deep into it. Guys, it's a minimum contract. Whether or not he's on the team, it is definitely the flyer situation.
KCP, 3 years, $66 million.
Yeah, I was gonna say 1-year deal. I'm very surprised that's all he could get.
3 for 66. That's a good signing for the Magic.
Look, he helps every team he's been on. I'm just surprised.
He's a good guy.
I'm just surprised that. I mean, I guess given his age, but like, I'm just surprised that teams are so willing to let him go. So much?
Does this make Russ to the Nuggets more? They inquired about him before he opted in. Does Russ to the Nuggets?
I don't think so. I don't think there's. I think they knew
sack
this
of Lays,
was coming
not flavored, just the stinky ones.
Plain Lays, not ridged.
Their GM had already come out like a week ago and said, basically, if we lose him, we have Christian Brown. We have guys that we can go to. They've been, with a decent pipeline right now to the NBA draft of funneling in new talent. They've been good about that. The Denver
They're
Nuggets.
laying the pipe, you'd say?
Gosh, they've been laying the pipe all right. Like Mario.
Yeah. Man, Lawrence Frank has, I don't know. There's some interesting,
And does the addition of another guard, well, I mean.
This is the deepest position, I don't know.
It's aren't going to do this and not address it. They will address it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would hope that it means like either, I mean, preferably Russ, but like something could be in the works for Norm too.
Yeah,
Porter is a scorer. He's not as good of a shooter, but he is a scorer. I mean, he played like 34 minutes, but he's like just under a 20-point per game guy.
Yeah. There's a path there.
Somebody's saying Isaiah Hartenstein is going to OKC.
Is that real?
I'm not sure if that's a report or not. I'm checking it here on X.
Adam on X.
As I'm on X. I don't see any breaking news yet on that. They're probably
that's very on brand.
Reading tea leaves, reading the chamomile.
The chamomile. Yeah, I want this. I just want the PG saga to end. If I'm being honest.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Right off. Can we just end it? Like,
and I understand the frustration and outrage side of it with people talking about KPJ coming.
It's a gross move.
I did not know the extent of it. I thought we were talking about baggage with him leaving a game with the Houston Rockets, I believe happened at one point. Like he just left.
He had an issue with teammates in Houston too. They did not like him.
Yeah, I mean, he was part of that draft class. I mean, I'm in no way relating this to his behavior because that's reprehensible, but
of course
he was like kind of part of that in between build of draft picks and especially guards that they didn't really seem to know what exactly they wanted to do with. Like there wasn't really a whole lot of direction. So I do believe that there was a lot of dysfunction in the organization. And of course, again, I'm just talking about the on-court stuff.
So Deuce Times is bringing up an interesting thing. He's old enough to remember Kobe opted out in 2004, took a meeting, and he came back. I think the issue, this is a great point because it has happened before. But the issue is
why Kobe did that, though? To put leverage on the franchise to trade Shaq, to say, I could leave, and so you better do something.
But in this issue with the Clippers, it's that fourth year. It's sticking on the fourth year, and it's not, you know what I mean? Like that, this is a great point by Deuce, but like the Clippers don't want to give him 4 years for a max.
And if you give him 3 with a player option on the last year, I mean, that's getting picked up.
For sure. A lot of people are in this camp that PG isn't leaving. What's the deal? If you're in the chat, and we're just using slang, what's the deal for PG if he's not leaving? What do you think in the chat? Do you think he comes back for if he's not leaving? Because the Clippers aren't offering a max. And I mean this sincerely, because I don't know what he comes back for if he comes back to the Clippers. You know what I mean?
He'd be turning down, reportedly, 2 teams that are offering him the max that are also competitive teams. You wouldn't believe this, but Orlando was like the 5 seed last year. And the Philadelphia 76ers have Maxey and Embiid. He's not just leaving to get money to go play for the Charlotte Hornets.
He could go to Detroit.
These aren't bad.
No, totally. I mean, that's why Philly makes the most sense too, because it is the clearest path to a finals. You're in the weaker conference. Sorry. Sixers, I mean, yes, they haven't gotten out of the second round, but they are, if not a contender, on the verge of being a contender basically every single year. And if you look at it from a talent perspective, Paul George could get max money to be the third best player on the team, which is seemingly exactly what he wants situationally.
Who amongst us?
He wants to be fancy Tobias Harris on the 76ers. And if they're willing to pay him max money to do that, if I was Paul George, I would take that deal in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
For everybody talking about the family thing and the draw to staying with the Clippers because of that, yes, we have talked about it extensively. I think that would be the biggest reason he'd stay.
Yeah, it's for sure.
He's home.
Yeah.
He had always wanted to come back to Southern California. There were Lakers rumors before too.
So is he back on 3 for $150? That would be.
If that ends up being the end of this whole thing, wow. So much ado about nothing.
Yeah. So much. Yeah. I mean,
that's true because basically the same offers have been there the entire time. And he just eventually came to the realization that, you know what, I'm more comfortable here.
Yeah.
And the money doesn't outweigh being comfortable with my family in Los Angeles. In Palmdale.
Where do you think they take him out to dinner in Orlando to try and where do you take Paul if you're Orlando?
Disney World. The top of
they
the
go
Epcot.
to Epcot. They eat around the world. Do a little world tour at the Epcot Center.
Wine and dine around the world.
I'm on TripAdvisor and it's the top restaurants in Orlando. Number 2 is the Melting Pot, which is a national fondue cheese chain. So I don't know if Orlando's being
fondue pot is good. It's just
sure it shouldn't be this.
It's a little pricey. It's a little overrated.
It shouldn't be the second best restaurant in your city.
Yeah, that's fair.
It shouldn't be.
Someone brought up back to the bubble. Would this be bubble redemption if Paul George went to Orlando?
Bubble redemption would be PG having a great Game 6 in Orlando in the finals against the Magic for the Clippers. That would be bubble redemption. But yeah, this is a great point from X Mongo Project, which is kind of where I'm at. He seems unserious sometimes. And this is what Sixers fans, I think, the frustrations they would meet is you're like, does this guy want to win? Where are we at? He wants to play the right way. He has quotes stacked against him.
He seemed serious when he said there's no identity.
He was serious about that. That was great.
He's also a huge fucking part of that, though. Come on, be real.
Don't tell HP Basketball that, who may be on the podcast next month, who I got into a lengthy argument with on X, who apparently doesn't know who Paul George is and is saying the biggest thing they'd lose from him is his leadership and being a connector.
Terrible leader.
And this is a good point by Michael Youn. PG would get to catch and cook fish in Orlando.
Great fishing out there.
That's a good point. It's a great point. A point. So back to the KCP thing. That takes them out of the PG running. So I don't think they're signing Paul George. That basically takes them out.
Does it? Are we sure they still wouldn't have enough? How much is that per year? Yeah, I guess so. They're not
3 for 66
with the cap.
And it's a player option on the 3rd year. So I don't.
No, when I looked yesterday, I believe they had just about enough to get a max in.
Max, yeah.
So yeah, they don't have 70 to get both of them or something like that to play with. So
the only person who has close to 70 is Philadelphia, who I believe has $65 million in cap space. But you also got to remember, it's because everyone is off the books. So they can do one big signing and then they still have to fill out a roster.
They're about to re-sign Maxey, but they can do that because they have his bird rights also to go over the cap. So they're fine, and that's what they could pay Drummond. What does this say about the Paul George situation, though, that Orlando this quickly after free agency said, okay, we're using our money? They seem to know they at least were out of it. They might know where he's going.
Also just maybe weren't willing to take that big of a swing. Like, those owners are a cheap owner base. It's a possibility that, they would like the Paul George thing. And from talent, it's a great perspective. But if you're staring down the barrel of 4 years for 212?
Well, what if he takes less now for Orlando?
I don't think he's taking less for Orlando.
That much less, yeah. Because how much it would have to be?
It'd be what, 4 for 200? Like 12 million less. Like I don't see him taking less than that, if I'm being perfectly honest.
And the Sixers are better than the Magic, so they're the best team.
It's an easier path, and like I said, there's easily 2 players better that more are expected from than him on the roster, which is seemingly the situation that he wants.
So it's down to Clippers or Sixers, unless the Utah Jazz have this outside shot. There was a report earlier they
have the space.
He would thrive. I will go on record right now and saying that I think of all the people that I can think of, I think Paul George would thrive in Utah. I think he would do great there. There's no pressure. They love basketball, but like, dude, it's Utah.
I don't know, man. Their fans, when they're good, are pretty ravenous.
I think he'd be fine. I think Paul George, he's an odd duck, and I think he would thrive in Utah.
Fish in the Salt Lakes?
Whatever they do up there, the beehives.
Water,
yeah. I think he would thrive in Utah.
X-Mongo Project is asking about Mo Wagner. So he was released by the Magic, but it seems like they're trying to work out a deal. So is he available? Technically, yes. He is not under contract. But I don't know if the Magic are trying to take him back. I don't see him being a real upgrade over Mason Plumlee, really.
He's younger.
He's younger. He is good. I mean, he
was an annoying good guy.
He makes more sound decisions for sure. Yeah. It would be an upgrade. He
could be a prick too. And the Clippers need a dickhead, I think. They need a Pat Bev.
Can they get Pat Bev back? Because I'd be all for it.
What does KPJ mean for Bones, though?
It's a 2-way contract. I don't think it means anything for Bones. I think he has to have I hope they have to play him in Summer League. They have to.
He's on a 2-way?
He's on a 2-way. It's a minimum. 15% trade kicker. So
he and Kai Jones might be wrecking people in the G League.
Yeah, or they move him,
so to speak.
Yeah, because I just think, I mean,
people in the chat rightly pointing out that KPJ is a dickhead, much like Mo Wagner. We're not trying to add more.
Not
to the
different.
Team.
Yeah, we're talking ideally
you get that ratio down.
We're talking basketball dickheads. Oh yeah, sorry. It's a minimum contract. But they still got to have him play. I don't think it's a 2-way. No, yeah, that was my bad. They still got to have him play Summer League because he hasn't played against NBA competition. I don't think Bones is going to play Summer League. I don't think he shouldn't have to play Summer League. He should just probably be tried out in the beginning.
No.
So I don't know. I don't think KPJ means anything for Bones.
Oh, the Kendrick Lamar lyric.
It's a fair point. Yeah, it's not.
I would like to say, I totally understand that side of it. I hope you're consistent if you believe this stuff and don't have Tyreek Hill on your fantasy team or something. I just hope if that's how you feel about it, I totally understand. So it is going to be polarizing.
And do the Clippers bring in another backup point guard to challenge Bones to maybe try and have a competition?
No, we have enough guards. Stop.
Well, Russ is going to be gone.
Don't
Russ
even speak this into existence. Is he?
They're trying to Russ is gone. They're trying to facilitate the trade.
Well, let me know when it's done.
That's James Harden.
Let me know when it's done, Farbod.
That's 4 dudes. That's 3 guys. It's 3 guys.
I don't want to see anyone challenge Bones. I want Bones to get the job.
I'm not saying, but do you think they do?
I want Bones to challenge himself.
That's a good point.
Why to challenge him? Those guys are boys. I want Bones to be in the same position he was, in that same place he was, where everybody to a man said he impressed them most during training camp than any other player on the team. It was Bones Highland, and he knew he had the starting backup job because when he has.
I'm just saying, a training camp with Harden and Bones, the development off the charts.
That's a great call.
I'm all about that.
First full training camp for James to have with the Clippers too. Oh, this is a move that I like actually from Junction. Bring back KJ Martin on him in.
Yeah.
Bring the young athletic guy at the 4 back.
I'd still rather have Batum first.
Oh yeah, Batum back on a minimum.
Guys, if they can get Batum back,
stars.
The Batums
or
are
Covington.
royalty.
I mean, both available.
Yeah, they're. I mean,
the Batums are royalty, and if they come back to LA, they will be treated as such.
Yeah, they will be. They will be welcome.
I will root for France against Team USA this summer if Batum comes back to the Clippers.
Well, I don't know about that.
I will. Underdogs.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about this. We didn't talk about this on the pod. Brandon Boston Jr. no longer a Clipper, seemingly. It kind of sucks, but it's not a huge surprise.
He just didn't develop. He didn't develop. It seems like there was,
which is a two-way street.
I think he was.
It seems like there were some issues too, like with him being willing to change his role and some stuff like that. There was just no development over multiple years. So what do you do?
And they drafted guys. Yeah.
He was somewhat a victim of circumstance of the Clippers just in this era not developing young guys. And there's somewhat of a failure there because the lack of opportunity, there was no way to find out anything about Brandon Boston and who he can be in this league, to be honest. Like I think we saw enough.
I got to be honest with you, man. I think we saw enough.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if some team has him as a solid role player backup. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up there in his career.
Yeah, at some point. And again, the development, when you're on a team that the goals are a championship, it's difficult to get that development, especially with the glut of guards. I want to give a shout out to Scott Tran for pointing this out. KJ Martin was the only Clipper player in the schedule release video, I believe, last season or the season
This
before.
Is pandering to Chuck.
This is absolutely
last season, yeah.
It's absolutely pandering to me. I appreciate this. It's insane. It's so funny. He took that basketball to Chick-fil-A. And that's what they did. I don't know. Anything else? How are we feeling? We're just waiting on this Paul George stuff.
Harden news was shockingly pleasant.
I feel great.
Harden news after sort of an uncertain start to the free agency in the offseason. Just a huge sigh of relief. That is a great domino to fall. Very team-friendly deal. And it gives the Clippers a lot more ability in terms of what they want to do. Do they want to move somebody? Are they willing to give assets to try to raise the talent ceiling? Do they want to try to get under the tax, maintain a little bit more maneuverability, see what they could do mid-season or possibly a year from now?
I just keep thinking about how they can realistically get under the first apron with Kawhi and James Harden on a team. That's interesting. Sure. That's the front office doing some work.
That's good stuff for sure. I don't know. I feel like we should call it. We're all waiting on Paul George. We'll go live when the Paul George thing happens at some point.
Yeah, I don't see much else materializing. Klay Thompson is looking at Dallas. He's looking at the Lakers. He's looking at the Clippers. That's one report that's out there.
Yeah.
Will, did we get your thoughts on Klay?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Zero interest. He fell out of the starting lineup for a very thin, much worse team than the Clippers last season. I'm good.
That was so funny. No, thank you. Someone. That's so funny.
I wouldn't hate on the mid-level, but I get it. There's reason to believe that he's certainly lost a few steps.
Yeah, I think
I just think the fit is really good. Really good
on the second unit
to replace Paul George. I'm not saying
that's insane. He's not.
No. I don't mean he's they're the same level of talented team. I mean at fit next to James and next to Kawhi because of his shot profile. It's pretty darn good. DeRozan, you can make the argument is the more talented player, but fit wise might not be as good as Klay. Because he doesn't.
Yeah, I think the DeRozan is a terrible fit.
Yeah, I don't like the fit at all. Mid-range guy. With our other we can't have two mid-range guys.
SoCal guy.
I love the vibes. I'm not talking about the hangs. I'm sure the kickbacks are going to be great.
He's also
you're overlooking the hangs.
He's a player. He's a player I love to watch as well. I just
if we're not contenders,
So if it did happen, I wouldn't be mad about it. But
that's what I said. I wouldn't kick it out of bed.
No, but like objectively, like if I'm working in the front office, from a fit perspective, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
And if we're not contenders, the hang should be good, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think that's fair. All right. So I think we're calling this until next time, which might be tomorrow
or tonight.
We work every day now.
Yeah, we do.
Work.
But yeah, thanks for everyone for hanging out. Here's to the Clippers maybe getting under the first apron. Maybe Paul George comes back on the 3 for $150 deal, and we all get a cackle, which is exactly what I'm doing for 10 seconds when that stream starts.
If it's less than 3 for $150, I'm actually quite happy.
If it's less than 3 for $150, I'm burning things down in a joyous way.
Yeah, Will, what's happening if he goes to Philly for 3 and $150? What happens then?
Yeah, I already told you.
I tagged you on Twitter. I tagged you. There's a guy who lives a 10-minute walk from the beach. He says he's got a bag of Paul George stuff.
Perfect.
Check your mentions.
Perfect.
Thanks for hanging out. You can find the podcast anywhere you find podcasts. Thanks for hanging out on YouTube. And this will be out in audio form later. So
yeah, sorry I was late. I was watching the 4th of July in the theater. Really? Born on the 4th of July.
Wow.
Let me ask you something before we get out of here. What's the threshold for getting us back on a pod tonight? Like if they did bring in Klay, are we podcasting? Like what type of player is it going to take?
Text me.
When the LaVine deal happens.
When the LaVine deal happens.
That's huge.
Oh yeah, wait, real quick. Let's each give our prediction for what we think happens before the end of tonight. Adam, what's a weird thing that you think happens?
I don't know about a weird thing. I'm still in the camp of it's probably more likely than not that Paul George goes to Philadelphia, but I wouldn't be shocked if he came back to the Clippers because he's a whole body. He's on the PS5.
I don't think we can bring on Patrick Patterson. Don't we already have like 16 rostered guys?
We could cut if PG comes back on 3 for $120 and we have to cut somebody, we'll bring back Patrick Patterson. He can host movie nights.
Yeah, he had good movie takes.
All right, Will, what's your weird thing? What's your prediction for before the end of the night?
I don't know. PG finally makes a decision, but doesn't announce it for a couple more days.
I like that. That's a good call. Yeah, I think PG says he has a decision, but he's announcing it on the pod. This pod. No, I'm just kidding. It'll be on Podcast B. All right, we're headed out of here. Hope everyone has a good rest of your night. Here's to some work getting done tomorrow, because I don't know how much is going to get done. As always, thanks for hanging out.